I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
I've never been afraid of change. Just, I think, as coaches, sometimes you fight it a little bit internally. But again, deep down, if you want to do what's best for your kids, you got to keep an open mind. And we don't just change things to change, but within our speed program and our strength conditioning program, we probably make more subtle changes every year for the better to improve than we do any other place in our program.
Welcome to this episode of Sprint-Based Football, presented by Titan GPS. Founded and based in Texas, Titan GPS is your key to sprint-based football success. Designed specifically for high school football, Titan tracks the metrics that matter, like top speed, explosive acceleration, and even the powerful truck stick, speed times weight, for the ultimate performance insight. Whether it's optimizing practice, spotlighting players with 3D highlights, or giving recruiters verified in-game stats, Titan delivers. And with no minimums to get started, Titan walks you through every step. Message them on X @TitanSensor to learn more. Titan GPS, performance measured, potential unlocked. Hey, this will be our 8th episode of the Sprint-Based Football Podcast. Today, we're really excited to see Ric Arand from Lena Winslow, a guy that has coached his entire career at one school. And at that school, he has 270 wins against only 68 losses. I believe that Ric Arand was the first guy to adopt the feed the cats mentality as a football coach, which of course now is synonymous with sprint-based football. So I can't wait to hear what Ric Arand has to say. Okay, we have Ric Arand today from Lena Winslow High School in the northwest corner of Illinois. Ric, tell me about Lena Winslow.
Well, Lena Winslow High School was a consolidated school district back in the late 50s before consolidation was even a thing, really. Two towns of Lena and Winslow. Winslow is about 8 miles north of here. Winslow sits right on the Wisconsin border. You go a few hundred feet north of there and you're in Wisconsin. We're about 15 minutes from Wisconsin, 45 minutes from Iowa. Town of about 3,000 people, high school of about a little less than 240 kids now, 235 kids.
What do you love about it?
You know, great small town feel. I'm actually grew up about 12 miles from here in Stockton, Illinois. And so once I got out of college, went to grad school and came back this way. And I was one of those small town kids who was going to leave Stockton area, and leave the small town and never come back. And 5.5 years later, I found myself teaching right here, and really fell in love with the town. I always thought Lee Win, when it was a rival of ours in basketball growing up, it was a great basketball school. And I always thought they had great potential to be a football school as well. And there was always great athletes rolling through here, and really nobody had really just put it all together, And so I was here 5 years as an assistant coach, and spent 3 of those years as the head basketball coach, and that didn't go so well. And, they fired me from that. And about 2 months later, they hired me as the head football coach. So been doing it ever since. This next season will be my 29th year. And, the kids here remind me of me growing up, just hardworking kids, respectful, small town kids. And our kids are no different than your kids. You just got a lot more of them at Plainfield North, and kids are kids.
I didn't know why we had such a strong connection, but, I started as a head basketball coach as well.
I knew that.
Also when I was really young.
Yeah.
I used to brag. I was the youngest head basketball coach in the state of Illinois. And we were actually in the bigger school division, just barely, which made it the worst job in Illinois. But I, too, was fired after 8, I thought, pretty solid seasons. And the funny story is, of course, that I was fired in March, but they begged me to take the head track job in February. That 1 month before I was fired as a head basketball coach, this board acted like they liked me and asked me to do a favor for them. And it changed my life. So it's strange how we end up doing stuff like that. Now, I became a coach. If somebody said, well, why do you become a coach? It's a really boring answer. I really didn't have a choice. I grew up with a dad that loved coaching. He wanted to coach his whole life. He used to tell me that just like his basketball coach, he wished that he could not ever retire, but to actually die on the bench during a game like his coach. So, there's this, I really didn't have a choice. Was there something that made you want to coach?
Yeah, I think so. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. Again, small school. Stockton at that time was about the size of Lena Winslow now, even though they've declined a little bit here recent years. But I grew up with a Hall of Fame football coach. Sean O'Boyle was his name at Stockton, won numerous state championships, was a great influence on my life. I think the way we conduct ourselves and do things around here are real conducive to kind of how he did things. His language was a lot better than mine, but we won't go there. And along with him, he was a young guy at the time, but the guy that was our head basketball coach at the time, his name was Chris Wetler. Chris is still coaching in Wisconsin now. He actually just coached his 1,000th game as a head coach here this season. I think one of 3 coaches in the state of Wisconsin to ever do so. Terry Harmston was a English teacher and a lower level JV freshman coach, had a big influence on my life. So I was real fortunate that I grew up at a time at Stockton High School when we had some really, really great people there and just had a big influence on your life. And even to this day, I'll do certain things. I'm 58 years old. This year will be my 29th year as a head coach. And there will be things to this day that I will say or do, and I'll think to myself, what would Coach O'Boyle think about that? And so he's been passed away a few years now, but he's still haunting me.
Great coaches never die. They live on and on and on.
Yes.
And I love talking to coaches about this kind of stuff because it reminds me how important we are. That coaches are kind of like teachers with lots of charisma because we have to get a group together and get them all going in the same direction. And I believe the difference between the classroom and the football field is a lot of time the emotions that go along with it and going through hard things, fun things, celebrations. It just gives us a feeling of community and belonging that I think is missing today with so many kids. And I think that you've created that culture at Lena Winslow.
Yeah, I would like to think so. Our kids are a pretty tight-knit group, year in and year out. As a coach, you wonder, you got a great group of seniors that's leaving you, and how are you going to fill that void? And for whatever reason, year after year, it just seems like it kind of takes care of itself. That taking care of itself is just part of the culture that's been created. We'll probably get into it later, but I really attribute a lot of that, not necessarily to myself, but we've got a great group of coaches that have been together for a long time. Our coaching staff represents every building in our district. We've got coaches in every building, really. And that's not only football, but it's basketball, baseball, softball, track, whatever. And so really, every time a kid turns a corner in the hallway, K through 12, they're running into a coach. The coaches already have their eyes on them. They can tell you in second grade what that kid was like, and you know he's going to be a good athlete. You just hope he grows up a little bit, But I think we have a great culture around here. We get a lot of schools that want to come in and check things out, and we're an open book. I don't care. Well, the same way you are, Tony. We're an open book. Anybody can come in and watch us work out. They can come in and watch practice. They can come in and watch film with us. I really don't care. And hopefully you continue the cycle of, great coaches within our area. We've had coaches from Woodstock Marion come out a couple of years ago, and a young guy that, was struggling a little bit. And I think he's getting things going. And I guess it's kind of like going to a clinic. If I can go to a TFC and pick up one thing, whether it's something you say, a drill, whatever, the football clinic season's getting started. And that's always what I tell our guys. If you want to go to clinic, that's great. Just find one thing, one drill, one concept, one whatever, and that makes it worthwhile.
There's two things I'd like to unpack from what you just said. First of all, I'm sure you realize how fortunate you are to have a staff that also teaches and is planted in different buildings. There are so many big schools in my area where maybe 80% of their coaches are from the outside. They have no skin in the game. They have no clue where the elementary school is or the middle school is. They show up to coach, and then they don't care about the other 9 months of the year except for maybe the football workouts themselves. And you probably have coaches on your staff that coach other sports, that coach different that teach different things. I mean, have you always had that?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, we've been fortunate. And we, up until a year ago, when Kyle Benson is our offensive coordinator, he was also our head basketball coach. And he resigned the basketball position to take an assistant AD job just because really couldn't do both. But he's still our offensive coordinator. But prior to him resigning, we had every boys head coach in our district was also on the football staff. And yeah. So we have a junior high program, just 7th and 8th grade. Between junior high and high school, we have a total of 14 coaches. And those junior high guys, when they're not practicing, they're not playing, they come over and help us out. They come with us all throughout the playoffs. They'll show up to practice, run a drill, whatever it might be. But out of those 14 guys, I think 7 of them are teachers in our district. None of them teach outside of our district. And we only have 7 paid guys total between junior high and high school. So we have 7 that are volunteers. One guy's been here probably 26 years, 25 years. One of our varsity assistants, who's a retired science teacher, and he forfeited his paid position when he retired because he just wanted to come back and volunteer. He's been on staff since about 1987 here. So he's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly at Lena Winslow. Our defensive coordinator has been here since I got here, 29 years. We have 3 coaches on our varsity staff, including myself. 3 coaches that have been head football coaches, stints. When I say we're really fortunate, we are really fortunate. It sounds like we have a lot of coaches for a small school, but we don't take just anybody. I have people every year text me or email me, call me. They want to become part of our football staff. 99% of the time, I tell them, no, we have the guys we want. We don't need any more. So there is such a thing as, too many Chiefs and not enough Indians. But when we get somebody, new that moves into the area, their kids coming up through, might have been a player for us in the past. If we see somebody we want, we go out and recruit them and get them as part of our staff. Most recently, we got a kid who was a great athlete for us, ran track at the Naval Academy, came back here, got married, has a young family, works right here in town, and he volunteers on our football staff and our track staff now. And so I think it's important for the longevity of our programs here at Lee Win that you are kind of actively recruiting. Otherwise, you end up in the position of what you're saying in some of the suburban schools, where I think it's important for me as a head coach to be in the building, because you don't know how kids act, for the most part. You don't know what they're doing in the hallways and things like that, but they know if they see me and they're not behaving like they should be, then, something's going to happen. So, and I think that happens in all 3 buildings in our district, our elementary, our junior high, and our high school.
Well, I know that to be true. This is my 6th year since I retired from teaching chemistry, and my job is really, really different. The fact that I am not in the school, I'm not with the kids. Right now, I have my 2 fastest guys are failing senior English, and I don't know their English teacher. I would know their English teacher, and I could affect change, not putting pressure on that English teacher, but I could learn what I needed to be telling those kids. Yeah. And I can't do that, where I am now, and it's hard. The other thing from that previous statement that you talked about people coming in and that you're an open book. and I'm sure you feel the way I do, that when we give it away, it comes back to us, and it always does. I just think great coaches are givers. They don't hoard their ideas. And then the other thing is that clinics are good, but there's nothing better than visiting somebody who does something well and to actually see the nuance in their coaching, the things that they have forgotten a long time ago that they even do because it's just a daily habit for them. But we learn so much from just being there and watching somebody coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got Brad Seberg from Cary Grove High School, the head football coach. He's coming out here on Thursday. He wants to learn something we're doing. I'm not sure he knows what he's getting into because I think it should be the other way around. But we paid him a visit last year in there and got some good things from him, and so he's going to come out here. But great guy. It's a profession you just steal from one another.
And for those of you who don't know, we're talking about one of the most powerful, are they 7A or 8A?
I believe 7A because they beat East St. Louis Senior 2 out of the last 3 or 4 years in the state championship.
Which is just incredible. For those people who don't know, East St. Louis has people, it's kind of like a college team where people, commit to East St. Louis from all over Missouri and then the IHSA just stands back and says, "Oh, we can't do anything about East St. Louis. That place is different and everything." And it's just crazy. And the fact that a suburban school that's really well coached could beat them twice. And then for that school to want to visit a 1A school, we have 8 classes in Illinois, to visit a 1A school who does things right is just I'm just so proud of him, and I'm so proud of your program when I hear something like that.
Yeah, you gotta put your ego aside, and do what's best for your entire program. And really for us, it's not even our program because our community is part of our program. Really, you got 3,000 people in the town, and you got a Friday night football game. 1,500 of them are standing on the sideline behind you. Anytime we play, it is a town-wide event, And so I think that's a lot to do with coaching. Is that you got to be able to put your ego aside and just do what's best. And I've learned a lot of things from a lot of different people, and I'm proud to say that everything I got on these 2 sheets of paper sitting in front of me of notes came directly from you, really.
Well, let's talk about that. So we did not know each other, and I think I was slightly aware of your track coach, Austin Rickles.
Yep.
And I believe that he had latched on to some Feed the Cats ideas where you try to make practice better, a better part of a kid's day. You try to get them fast and explosive, and you stop running the cat out of them, and stop conditioning, and you enter the game, enter the meet, the best version of yourself, both mentally and physically, and those things. I believe I just written an article because that's my first year out of football. I written an article called New Ideas for Old School Football Coaches, and you called me. And I remember I sat at the table. I still remember where I sat, and I think we talked a long time. And it was a conversation that you kind of latched on to some of those ideas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this happened in August of 2017. Austin's a volunteer assistant of ours. He's our head track coach, does a great job with our kids. He runs all of our summer speed training.
And he's a real smart guy, right?
He is a real smart guy. He's actually a professor at University of Wisconsin-Platteville now. He doesn't teach in our district. He still lives here, but teaches up there. Comes back to coach track and football. So our first day of football practice in August of 2017, we had a great team coming back, and we were going to be fast no matter what. We had some serious athletes. We went on to go 14-0 and won a state championship that year. Austin brought this article that you had written, New Ideas for Old School Football Coaches, with it. He had printed it out, stapled it for me. So after practice, he says, "I think you should read this." Well, I don't know what made me read it, but you know how it is during your season. We got done, at whatever, noon, and at that time, it might even still been a Wednesday. It used to start on Wednesday, but Monday or Wednesday anyway. And, I've got more important things to do. I've got a practice to plan for the next day. So immediately after practice, I had put together my practice plan for day 2 for the next morning. And for whatever reason, I got home and I read this article. It was pretty lengthy. It was probably 14, 16, 18 pages, something like that. it probably didn't tell me anything I didn't know. We were running kids into the ground. That day, I'd probably just run them into the ground. We probably did 6 or 8 gassers, just all kinds of stupid stuff. So I read it, and I shot Austin a text. I said, I'm in. And he goes, what do you mean you're in? And I said, I'm in. And so at the end of your article, you had your phone number and your email. What you're saying isn't quite exactly how this story went. So I wrote up this really nice, lengthy email, and I actually sent it to my wife at work first. And I said, I'm sending this to a guy I really don't know, but he's a lot smarter than me. And I want to talk to him, but I want to make sure I don't sound stupid in this email, so I at least get a chance to talk to you, right? So she sends it back, says, yep, sounds good. It looks good. So I send it off to you. And I think basically what I was asking you after all of this was, can I talk to you about this? And I think the response I got back from you was, yep, we can do that. After this nice big email, I got like a 4-word response. My next email to you was, do you want me to call you, email you, text you? And your response was, I don't care. Like, holy shit, this guy's tough, man. So I ended up calling you, and, I basically had my practice plan printed out and went through my practice plan with you, and you kind of told me, how you would change things up. And basically what we've done ever since is every other day of the week, in a typical week, a Monday, a Wednesday, and then Friday's game night. We got 3 speed days during the week. And then we refer to them as 2 recovery days. You'd call them X Factor days, same thing. And so really from that day forward, the second day of practice in 2017, we have done that. And I can tell you one, I think I've told you this story before. We had an all-state running back. He was a great player for us. Went on to play at NIU until he had a couple concussions. And he's now a police officer in DeKalb, Illinois. And God bless him. After about the 4th or 5th day of practice, maybe we had 2 speed days in there. He comes in one morning and he says, Coach, my hamstrings and my butt hurt like crazy. I said, yes, mission accomplished, because we're sprinting. And if you're sprinting and you're getting a great sprint workout in, that's probably, if you're going to be sore, that's probably what should be sore, right? And I can give you some stats of what's happened since 2017, and it's been nothing short of remarkable. The 8 years previous to 2017, so from 2009 to 2016, we were 80-19. That was a pretty good record. We had 2 state championships in there, a semifinal, 81% winning percentage, and that was before Feed the Cats.
And I even, like, in my clinics, you're one of my slides, so you're pretty famous in Pittsburgh and Baltimore this year. So I say that your record in total before 2017 was 165 and 61, which was 75%. I mean, and here you are, a 75% winning percentage. And as you said, the previous 8 years, 81% winning. And you are reaching out to a track coach from Plainfield, Illinois. And I'll be damned if you don't go 95-7 with 4 state championships in the next 8 years and 2 runners up, right?
2 runners up, a semifinal, and the other year was actually the COVID year. So we played 102 games in those 8 years, and that was with a 5-game season in there. So the one thing,
well, you won 93% of your games from the time we talked until it just boggles my mind, because so many football coaches, as you know, latch on to the process. I mean, the process becomes their identity. And they are just trust the process. And by God, this is the way we do it. And this has been successful. But you were like, no, I'm wide open here.
Yeah. That's one thing I can tell you I've never been afraid of. I've never been afraid of change. Just, I think as coaches, sometimes you fight it a little bit internally. But again, deep down, if you want to do what's best for your kids, you got to keep an open mind. And we don't just change things to change, but within our speed program and our strength conditioning program, we probably make more subtle changes every year for the better to improve than we do any other place in our program. Now, people will tell you that we have played a 4-3 base defense for the last 29 years, and we have shied away from it at times, but when push comes to shove, we always go back to it. But again, we're not against, you play somebody who's really, really good, and we've played a lot of teams that are better than we are, and sometimes you got to sacrifice and you got to give up a little bit to get a little bit, so we have varied from it. But from an offensive standpoint, we are double tight for the most part. We're on a lot of unbalanced stuff, a lot of what we would call heavy formations to one side or the other. And people will tell you that we never change, that we're running the same stuff all the time. And kind of in theory, that's true, but we make subtle changes all the time. We change our blocking scheme. The play might look the same, but we change our scheme up front. So we are constantly looking to improve our program, give our kids a fighting chance. Because let's face it, we have won enough games over the years that our kids have a huge bullseye on their chest every time they step on the field. So I truly think we are taking everybody's best shot every week, every year. And we have for the last 20 years. And so I think we have to do things extraordinary to stay at that level and not be afraid of change.
Now, you mentioned what I now call like the wave theory. We can call it, in my track program, they're like speed days and X Factor days. I think in my early writings, I called them sprint days and non-sprint days. And now I kind of call it like performance days and fundamental days, where the performance days is when you really try to make the practice look like game, the game speed. You lace your cleats up a little tighter. You try to hit the top speeds. It's choppier because to play fast, you have to rest more and recover more. Whereas the fundamental days are kind of like old school practices. You're just kind of slogging through some things and learning some fundamentals and stuff like that. So that's kind of the up and down wave theory type of stuff. Can you explain some things that changed with the sprint-based idea that was different than the way you were when you won 75% of your games going 1-6-61?
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I've never talked sprint-based football with anybody. I've had conversations with Coach Dixon before. I've never asked him, and I've never watched video, any of the videos of sprint-based football of how other people are doing it. So I really don't know if there's a program to do it. I really don't know that we follow it or don't follow it. I'm not sure.
Well, that's an important point, Coach, because I say that the sprint-based ideas or feed the cats ideas is really a way to cook. That it's not a cut and paste, plug and play, systemic, okay, this is the workout for today. This is the workout for tomorrow. The details, the actual recipe is very unique to Camp Point Central or to Lena Winslow or to Stewartville, Minnesota, or to Hand High School in Connecticut. It's really different from school to school.
Yeah. So really what we've done, and again, we've refined it over the years. I think we've gotten a little bit better at it. Some things I think I kind of slap myself every year a little bit, we got to make this better here, pay a little bit more attention to how many sprints we're actually getting in, things like that. Basically, the way our practices are designed is everything's segmented. Everybody gets a practice plan. I try to get out as early every morning as I can. I give our coaches a lot of freedom. I don't have all the say in our practice plan. I just put it together with the time segments I think we need, with what I think we need to get in on a Monday practice is different than a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday. I think that's the one thing that's unique about football is, you're only playing on Friday or Saturdays. Every Tuesday looks the same for you. Every Wednesday's a little bit different, but it's always the same. And so I send it out to our coaches and tell them to, input in their indie time, their individual drill time, what drills they want to put in, things like that. If I think there's something that we should do, if we're going to play Stockton High School this week, and I think we need to work a certain drill because of one thing or another, I'll put that in there and put a note. But otherwise, I give them the freedom that with their individual positions, they can do what they want to do. And like I said, we got a lot of experienced coaches, a lot of smart guys, and they know their stuff better than I do. So I'm not going to get in their way. But I will put at the top of the practice plan if it's a speed day or a recovery day, so a speed day or an X Factor day. And they all know that Monday we never really get on the field. We watch some film. We do some sprint work. A lot of times it depends on Not all kids might sprint that day because we might have a running back that rushed for 300 yards is still really sore on Monday from Friday night. So he might just be doing some X Factor stuff on the side. But we sprint on the track otherwise every Monday. We go through film. We go through a lengthy, Coach Rickles refers to it as speed prep. So all your speed drills leading up that you do, we do, Coach Dixon does, that we do leading up to when we're actually going to sprint. We consider that to be our speed prep. So we'll go through a lengthy speed prep, which especially on a Monday is needed a lot of times because, again, you still getting out stiffness, soreness, but we get our laser timers out and we time stuff on Mondays. I know we timed our last practice before the state championship game was a Wednesday last year at home, and we timed fly 10s on the track on the day before Thanksgiving. So, are your kids faster now because of this? Oh, definitely, yeah, for sure. So, go back to, I guess, what the original question was. So, how do we fill this in within practice? So, on a speed day, like I said, I'll send the practice schedule out. It'll say speed day at the top of it. Guys will input, and I'll actually put in, so during an Indy time, so an Indy offense, individual offensive time, I might put in there, build in one speed drill. Okay, so you're going to do one drill where at some point within that drill, maybe we get 10 minutes or 15 minutes of Indy time, and you might get typically 2 to 3 drills in. And one of those drills is going to be a speed drill. So for a running back, I coach linemen, but for a running back, it could be something as simple as a hand down drill for balance, and then that might go 10 yards, and then you finish that off in a 15-yard sprint from the end of your hand down drill, 15 yards to we would call it the goal line. It's a flat out sprint at its game speed, and you might get 3 or 4 of those in. And when we go to our group time, I'll put in there, build in a speed drill. And when we go to our team time, then a lot of times on speed days, we do things against bags. Nobody can afford to get kids hurt anymore, but we really can't afford to get kids hurt because we only have one of some of those, So a lot of times we'll go on bags, and what we'll do is we'll have, Stockton High School's base defense set up in the bags, and we will execute blocks. We will execute a fake. And it might be a 20-yard sprint from there. And usually we have enough to go 2 groups, sometimes 3. And so the first group will go, and then the second group will go. And about the time the second group goes, the first group is done. And they are just going to literally peel around, and they are going to walk back and actually kind of sloth back. Mm-hmm. That was probably the hardest thing to get over. Not having them jog, but actually walk, take your time. And the one thing I found about that is whether it's team time, drill time, anything, as those kids are walking back, that is your coaching time then. Because as they're walking back, they're really not talking because they're gassed. If they truly sprinted 20 yards, as they're coming back, they're kind of gassed and they're worried about catching their breath. And so that's a great time to coach them up. Maybe the quarterback, fullback mesh point was not very good. Maybe I didn't like the offensive tackle's first step on a down block. Maybe it was just a half-ass step. He didn't work at it real hard. So that's a good time to coach him up there. We will do it with our offensive linemen within blocking drills even. We might come out of a shoot. It might be a one-on-one drill where I'm drive blocking you. At the end of, we go off of boards all the time. At the end of the board, you finish that block, and it's a dead sprint to that cone that's 15 yards down the field. And again, then you just kind of meander back, nice and slow, talk them up on coaching points. How are their feet? How are their hands? How are their elbows? So that's kind of how we do it. And then a recovery day looks like a practice from 20 years ago. I guess my idea of a recovery day is you probably want your heart rate higher, not real high, but you want to be moving. You want the blood flowing. You want to get rid of any stiffness and soreness from that all-out speed day. So it does resemble an old school practice minus conditioning. We don't do any conditioning, but it kind of looks like that. So,
coaches, Titan GPS is the ultimate tool for football programs, including back-to-back Minnesota State champion Stewartville High School, a leader in sprint-based football. Built specifically for high school football, Titan tracks the metrics that matter: top speed, explosive acceleration, speed repeatability, and the game-changing truck stick. Titan's easy-to-use system delivers actionable insights at a glance, and their exceptional customer service ensures you're supported every step of the way. With built-in leaderboards to fuel competition and unmatched accountability, because the eye in the sky doesn't lie, champions trust Titan GPS, proudly made in the USA. Ready to join the best? Message them on X at Titan Sensor today to get started.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you guys feel like you're, like I always say, my dad would say, we're going to work so hard in practice that the games will feel easy. And that was the old school way, and it made a lot of sense to people. But I say with my stuff now is that we let the games be hard, that we would trade perfect health, fully charged batteries. And I think that perfect health means you're really fast. There's no such thing as being slow and healthy or beat up and healthy. I mean, so do you find that you guys go into games fresher with this approach?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we make it a point to be fresher. I mean, that's what
yes.
You want Monday to be a great day of preparation in the film room, in the weight room, on the track, really get that sprint work in if you're one of those kids who can sprint that day. Tuesday is really kind of a learning day on the field because you're going through all of your scout stuff of, trying to get everything we can in terms of our opponents on both sides of the ball. And, we're, for the most part, our kids play both ways or 1.5 ways and things like that. So, we're playing both sides of the ball. So that's a lot to put in. Wednesday, we're hopefully by then we're picking things up and we can play faster, and hence the speed day. And then Thursday, it's just kind of all put it all together. And Thursday is, really it's a glorified walkthrough. I mean, we're not getting after it at all because we want to be fresh on Friday.
Now, sprint-based football programs like I've mentioned it before, but Garrett Moeller and Brad Dixon and Eric Becker and the coaches I've talked to, they report almost amazing injury stats. And I've talked with these guys so much, and we think it's due to a lighter load, that high volumes create injuries. Obviously, if your volumes are less, collisions are less. Like we don't want to have too many collisions. Every team that calls themselves sprint-based football or Feed the Cats does RPR. Yep. And there's also some type of magic, some type of health magic that comes with sprinting in low doses. So having said that, have you found that your teams have been relatively injury-free?
Yes, for sure. We have your typical stuff mid-season, end of the year. Typically speaking, I think we have been over time really, really healthy at the end of the year, outside of your normal wear and tear type stuff, a sore shoulder, an ankle that, the practice fields and game fields we play on here are not like they are in the suburbs. Bad golf course at best, maybe the rough. We actually are putting in a new 8-lane track and a new turf field this summer. So I'm real curious to see how much better we get in terms of injuries and being at top speed on Fridays and Saturdays because of the consistent surface we'll be on all the time. We had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, our first major injury in 8 years this year. We had a kid who I think was a sure first-team All-Stater at running back and safety. He got hurt our second day of practice in a non-contact drill. He's a running back, and he was actually running buck sweep on air and just turned it up and blew his knee out. So non-contact, not really cutting sharply, But I will tell you this. This kid was a weight room freak for us. We sprint 3 days a week during the summer, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. He would never, ever miss a workout. He was a kid who was probably 130 pounds as a freshman, 175 to 180 as a senior. Really had made himself into a great athlete, great basketball player, great baseball player, and he tore his ACL. A week later, he was sprinting on the track with us again. He had tore his ACL, got the swelling down. His mom didn't know, his parents didn't know he was sprinting, but he was sprinting. And I told him, as long as we are straight line stuff, that's fine. I don't care. Because he was bound determined he was coming back. But in the meantime, his mom already had surgery scheduled for him. So I cornered mom and dad probably a week or two later and said, you ever think about postponing surgery till after the season? Because that's what, his name's Coburn Lynch. That's what Coburn really wanted. He wanted to try to brace it up and play. And mom was, as you can imagine, mom was not in favor of it. I'm not sure what happened, but she eventually succumbed to the pressure and he braced it up and played. So he got hurt our second day of practice. Week 3, we played at Dakota. That was his first time playing. His first handoff, he went about 75 yards for a touchdown. Lightning fast. And he started for us in the state championship game. His best 40 time in the summer before he got hurt in the summer was like 4.63. And his 40 time during the week of the semifinals was like 4.71 with a torn ACL. He had surgery right after the season was over. Full ACL surgery. So I would attribute a lot of what his success was because of sprinting all the time and working hard in the weight room. And all of those muscles that surround that knee joint were developed so well that, in my opinion anyway, he was able to overcome that. And he did have some setbacks. You know, he only had to turn it, you know, slightly, but he had one or two setbacks where he, you know, slight twist here, slight twist there, where he was not able to finish a game. But other than that, from week 3 on, he played, and he played well for us.
You'll be telling that story when you're a very old man.
Yeah.
That is one of a kind. Coach, I was going to tell you, one of the funniest things, of course, you and Brad Dixon played for the state championship game in back-to-back years. And the first time he tells the story that they take the field. And of course, I think you guys take the field pretty late, like he does. You know, you're not big on the 2-hour warm up, you know, so you take the field and they come out and you guys are in a circle doing RPR. And he thought to himself, we are screwed. These guys know all the secrets, you know? And so RPR has been a part of what you do for a while.
Yeah, I don't believe I had ever heard of RPR until I met you, because I believe after the 2017 season, I came to the TFC for the first time. I think Coach Rickles and I did. And then shortly after that, I took the RPR certification class up in Madison, Wisconsin. And so we're right around year 7, going on 8 for that. And there are times where I've said, I don't know if the 10 minutes we're spending on RPR is worth it. We could be doing something else. You know, we have some kids messing around, whatever it might be. But then I go back to the coach in me and you know, I just tell our kids, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. We can spend our time doing something else, you know, a little simpler, a little more wise. But it always comes back to, you know, they want to do it because they know what it's done for us in the past. Really anymore, we've put it all on the kids. If we have 4 or 5 captains, I think there's 12 different RPR reset exercises, and we just go right around the circle. So you might do shoulder, hamstring, and, you know, whatever, neck reset. And I might do 3 others and so on and so forth. So we put it on them, teach those seniors, those leaders how to do it. And they in turn kind of teach everybody else. And it's been really good to us. And Austin Rickles is a big driving force behind that, as well as our speed prep and things like that. He has total respect from the kids, and him to them likewise. They really, really flourish on that. And he's been able, he can make chicken salad out of you know what. So he's really, really good.
If my memory serves me right, did you attend the track football consortium with Carl Lewis?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if my memory serves me, we were at the World of Beers afterward.
At about 2 a.m., yes.
Yes, because Carl had like a 5 a.m. flight.
Yeah.
And he decided that he was just going to stay up all night.
Yeah.
And so, we're like looking at each other like, here's Austin Rickles and Ric Arand and Tony Holler having a beer with Carl Lewis at 2 a.m. in the morning. And we're like, is this real?
I remember Austin was texting some of his buddies and said, I'm drinking beer with Carl Lewis. And they're like, oh, bullshit. Send us a picture. And he's like, no, he said he's been so good to us. I can't ask him to take a picture with me. So he wouldn't send them a picture. But I don't know if they ever fully believed it or not. But yeah, that will go down as one of my more memorable clinic experiences.
Yes.
Not drinking beer with Carl, drinking beer with you.
Hey, we'll never forget it, man.
Oh, guys.
I want to talk just briefly, just because the private school situation in Illinois just pisses me off so bad. For those of you that are from out of state, there's 8 divisions, and private schools compete against public schools. And I believe 6 of the 8 championship games this year were blowouts of the private school beating a public school badly. And there's supposedly no recruiting and no scholarships, but I know for a fact, for example, when I coached Marcellus Moore, the great sprinter, I asked Marcellus, how many private schools did you visit as an 8th grader? And he said, I think I visited 7. I said, did all of them offer you a full ride? He laughed and said, of course, and a ride every morning.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, it's like everybody knows this is happening, but so you guys made it to the state championship game for the 6th time in the last 8 years. And this year you played against Belleville Althoff, who had, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they used to play in 4A?
I think their last state championship game, and I'm not sure if they won it or not, was in 4A. It wasn't too many years ago.
Yeah. So here they are, and they had not 1, but 6 D1 recruits. They had a running back that's going to play really well for Oregon next year, because I saw him in your game. I think he had 520 yards or something. And we were talking before we started recording this, where you said if they did not have that running back, if they had just had the other 5 D1 guys, you thought you had a good shot of beating them.
Absolutely. I think so. I think he was that good. I'm not too certain that from an offensive standpoint that they ever stopped us. I think we stopped ourselves a few times. They had great talent, don't get me wrong. Incredible players, incredible talent. But I still think we were the better team in terms of that. And I think if you take away the one kid, Hill was his last name, I believe. I think if you take away him, and I think Coach Dixon would probably say the same thing for them, because Coach Dixon didn't have a problem moving the ball on him either. Like, we rushed for 280 yards or something. I think Coach Dixon rushed for at least that in the semifinals. I think you take away Hill, and we got a really good shot at beating them. And
if I remember the game right, they maybe set a record for personal fouls in a game or something. And
yeah.
And your guys got taunted consistently, but your guys did such a good job of showing character.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Coach. I thought the entire game was an embarrassment to the sport of high school football. And we had a 10 o'clock game start. We took the field at 9:30, and the taunting started at 9:30. And it started, I think, as I told you, your warm-up field is from the 40 to the end zone. So then there's a 20-yard buffer from 40 to 40 between the two teams. But they were clearly crossing into our side of the 40 and really just saying stuff, doing stuff, making gestures, all kinds of things. And that never stopped until 1 o'clock when the game got over. And it was truly an embarrassment to high school football. I felt bad for our kids because I thought they got cheated out of the state championship experience. The year before, when we played Camp Point Central, hats off to Camp Point Central. They beat us. They were the better team, and we got the true experience. Coach Dixon's kids got the true experience, and that's what it's supposed to be about. But this was a total embarrassment. The referees did the best they could, but even they had no control over the game because they could have flagged guys every down if they wanted to. Anything from taunting to late hits to headbutting, to whatever. And it just never stopped. And we had a group of 6 seniors this year. We have 0 kids out of those 6 that are going to go on to play any sport in college. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if we have a kid that's going to college out of those 6. I think they're all going to go into the union. AC, electricians, a couple of them into the armed forces. And great for them. They're going to be great. They're going to be great husbands someday. They're going to be great fathers. They're going to be all of that. Great hardworking people. I watched on Twitter, I saw Althoff signing day, and they had either 14 or 16 kids that signed anywhere from Division I all the way down to NAIA to play football somewhere. And just absolutely unheard of. And again, I think it's an embarrassment to the IHSA. It's an embarrassment to high school football. It should have never happened. As well as with all the other classes going up, all of those schools should have been higher classification. And I'm not, the state has taken some steps to try to fix that, but I'm not even sure that what we have done is enough to fix it at this point in time. I don't understand why we just can't say, you are a private school, you are under a multiplier. Because you're a private school, there should be no success factor, should be nothing like that. Because when you let a success factor dictate where somebody's at, in the case of Belleville-Althoff, for example, they hadn't won in 4 or 5 years. And then when COVID hit, they put a reset on everybody's classification. So everybody went back to what their school enrollment was. Well, us public schools are the ones that are paying the price. Lena Winslow is going to be 230 kids for the next 15, 20 years. We know we're going to have 12 seniors for the next 10 years. These guys, on the other hand, they're just bringing in whatever they can bring in. I've heard stories of all the different schools these kids came from. And I don't necessarily believe it all, but I believe most of it. Again, I think it is a total injustice to our kids to let that happen. DePaul Prep won a state championship this year. I'm not sure what classification, 5A maybe? And we beat DePaul Prep at DePaul Prep like 3 or 4 years ago. And now they're in a state championship game. Actually, the night we played there, it was a recruiting fair. It was a junior high recruiting fair that night. The place was packed. There was like 1,000 kids that came to the recruiting night, and then they brought them all to the football game. And it was something I've never even heard of before. But we needed a game. We've never shied away from competition. So we went in there and, we really didn't know what the heck was going to happen. Oh my God, they had talent coming out the wazoo, and we ended up beating them in there. We paid the price for the rest of the year because we were kind of beat up the rest of the year because, the size and the speed, they're kids, but they turn around. I'm pretty sure they won a 5A championship this year. So.
Yep. When I was in Tennessee, it was right after they had separated private and public. And the reason for that was because Brentwood Academy was bringing in people from Florida, to play for them. And they were putting up billboards around Nashville with their star running back with 4 championship rings and say, if you want to be a champion, you need to go to Brentwood Academy. And people finally just got to the point where they said, you know what? We're going to separate public, 6 divisions public, 2 divisions private, and that's the way we're going to do it. You can play whoever you want during the season, but when it comes down to the actual state championships, that's a pretty fair way to do it, in my opinion. Now, I want to pivot. 2 quick questions I wanted to hit before. I remember when you brought your daughter Maya.
Yep.
Maya, your daughter Maya came up. And you had me working with her on some sprint stuff, and I showed you our weight room, and I thought I was going to big time you, like, hey, we got like 19 racks, like, hey, this is our weight room, this is the way, 8A or 7A schools from Chicago, this is what we got. And I remember you walked in, you goes, it's pretty much like ours.
Yeah, we're pretty blessed. Our school district invested a lot in a weight room. It'll be 10 years ago. It's actually 10 years ago right now. 15, about Christmas time, 2015, we moved into a new weight room. It's just a big room. And with rubber flooring, it's got it's weight room on one side and wrestling room on the other side. And when wrestling's not in season, we kind of take over the whole thing. And we've really been blessed with the support we've gotten from our school district. Our school district, our school board, our town is well aware that athletics, high school athletics is kind of, that puts your stamp on things especially as a small town in rural America. Everybody knows that Lena Winslow has had great football teams, that we've won state championship. Everybody knows that Lena Winslow is going to take boys and girls track teams to state almost every year. Volleyball has been really good. Baseball has been to state. So they've done their part in giving us the tools we need to be able to do what we would like to do. And we've been real fortunate. In the summertime, we work out 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. Between 7th grade and senior boys, we'll get anywhere from 95 to 115 kids in there every day. We're rolling them through 45 minutes at a pop. What we typically do is we do 45 minutes on the track. Coach Rickles is down there, runs them through our entire speed prep, kind of our gamut of speed prep into some timed runs. A lot of times it might just be something where it's some sort of relay. It might be an 8x50 relay or something like that, where the kids are just having fun. And if you got 50 kids, we're going to get 50 kids on the track all at once and run relays and make it fun, but yet make it work. That when kids are having fun, usually they don't realize what kind of effort they're putting in. But we spend 45 minutes on the track, 45 minutes in the weight room, and they go home. And when the first group is done on the track at 45 minutes, there's another group waiting to start, and we just keep rolling them through. But we'll get 100 plus kids in there each throughout each workout. And really, it's about the same with the girls on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday ones. So we've been really fortunate, and our kids know what that expectation is. And again, it's because of the kind of the culture that's been developed over the years. I wish I could go back in time 15 or 20 years ago to the groups of kids that really started this and bring them back in and let them experience what these kids are experiencing now, because the kids now have it so much better than what our other kids, our kids 15, 20 years ago had. And I don't think that the weight room or the equipment or the turf field, I don't think any of that even is a factor into that. I think it is. I've been around 15 or 20 years longer than I was at that point in time. I think I'm a lot smarter now. I'm a better coach. I relate better to kids now. And I think that's the same holds true for the rest of our staff. And the opportunities our kids have now compared to what they were 15 or 20 years ago are, just a huge difference. And I think I had teams 15 and 20 years ago that were probably as good as some of the teams that have won state championships. I just flat out didn't know what the hell I was doing. So,
well, I often say there's two of my sayings, and one is that if you look back at your former self without any cringe or embarrassment, then you have not grown, because we should grow. Exactly. The other thing, when you're talking about the investment that Lena Winslow and your school board and your admins have put into athletics, some people would actually object to that. And to me, you know what I mean? I mean, you probably have some lady English teacher or something in your building that's bitching about football getting all the advantages or something. No. But in terms of, I've been around for a long time, and the window to any school is their athletic program. And that window can either be a beautiful window or an ugly window. And it is the choice of I was going to say the coaches, but not really. It's the choice of the community, because your admins will reflect the community. Yeah. So if, my son coaches at Edwardsville, and I don't know of any school that has better facilities, and I don't know of any school that wins at the 8A or 7, the big school level more so than Edwardsville High School. And it's because they care about athletics. And I bet you would agree that putting that emphasis on athletics takes nothing away from academics.
Gosh, no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, our varsity kids this past year, we had probably 26 varsity kids. Our GPA was like almost 3.7 on a 4.0 scale. If you went back to that now, with some of these kids going to be graduating and some of the kids just fallen by the wayside because they're not in season, it's a drastic difference. And going back to being in the hallways, I'm constantly in the hallways hitting kids up about grades. Hey, I saw you had a D. This is an awful tough class. It can go north or south in a heartbeat with a quiz tomorrow, So make sure you don't let that happen. But yeah, I think your athletic programs are the heartbeat of your entire community. And again, our community is small. Your community within the doors of Plainfield North High School is the same size as our town. So
yes,
everybody that lives in Plainfield doesn't relate to Plainfield North High School. They don't know that. Some of them probably never even heard of Marcellus Moore.
Right. Yes. And I totally understand these communities that have one school. Harrisburg High School, where I started, was that way.
Yeah.
One school, one newspaper, one radio station, and it is just totally different than this suburban sprawl that we, like nobody who lives in my neighborhood was born in my neighborhood. They all have come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they're not going to stay here. They're going to end up somewhere, they're going to move out in 5 years, 10 years. But you guys have something to really be proud of. I have one more question for you. What's it like being a football coach with 4 girls?
Six girls.
No, that's crazy, Coach. You tried 6 times for a boy and you ended up with, no, I'm kidding, man.
Well, yeah.
6 girls.
Yeah. My oldest daughter actually lives out in Des Moines, and her husband was a college football player and now is coaching at Drake University. He's a defensive coordinator. So she actually probably has always known as much or more about football than I have. Very, very knowledgeable in the game, as well as really all of our kids. All 6 kids were athletic. They played sports. Some of them 1-sport athletes, some 3-sport athletes. And to be honest with you, most of our kids ended up ending their career short due to injury. Anything from our oldest daughter had a back injury, the next one a knee injury, a shoulder injury, another knee injury in there. But they've all been athletes, all know the expectation of what goes along with it. And yeah, on any given Friday night, we have 3 kids that live right here in Lena yet. One still at home, 2 one's engaged, one's married with a family. And then we got 3 in Iowa. And really on any given Friday night or Saturday afternoon playoff game, all 6 of them might be at a game still to this day. And, grandkids come with and all kinds of stuff. So it's actually probably more fun now than it ever was. And most of the 6 girls probably, three out of the 6 for sure spent quite a few years on the sidelines with me during games as water girls, ball girls, whatever it might be. So those 3 actually had more of an inside look than everybody else because they sat through halftime speeches and they'd come home and tell their mother, you wouldn't believe what Dad said. And then you kind of wonder if you're going to have a job the next day and, all kinds of stuff. So no, it has truly been a family affair. That's for sure for, most all of my career. It's as much, if not more fun now than it's ever been. And for a lot of reasons, because of my family, because the grandkids are involved now, because of the great guys that I coach with. And that's what, as you know as well, having retired 6 years ago, you said, that's what makes it hard to decide when you're going to hang it up. I could have retired last year as a teacher and I chose not to. I'm probably not going to retire at the end of this year either. What I really like to do is retire, get hired back and continue to coach. But then you're always also at the mercy of the administration, of the school board, if they want you back as a part-time person or whatever. So right now, the easiest and safest thing for me to do is to not retire because I love doing what I do so much.
Well, I think you should run for mayor and then continue as a head football coach and never retire. And I will end this podcast, which has been absolutely fantastic. I will go out on a limb and say you are the only coach in America, the only football coach in America with 270 wins and 6 daughters.
Maybe that was the secret to success right there.
Hey, I think kids keep you grounded, and I think women keep you grounded.
For sure.
And I think we need women in our lives, especially the testosterone driven football crap that could really eat us up. But you came home to your wife and 7 daughters, and that had to keep you fairly balanced.
Well, and you never get out of the house dress like an idiot, that's for sure, because they don't let you. You really don't have to do any shopping because they'll do it for you, things like that. So you get to do a lot of guy stuff. Hey, Coach, though, before you hang up here, I do have a tidbit of information that Coach Rickles passed along to me.
Okay.
That since 2017, Lena Winslow Track and Field has been has had the number one ranked 4x1 and 4x2 relay program in all of 1A since 2017. So since we started all this.
So the cats have been fed.
Yeah. And he also said this. We had a kid a few years back. His name was Isaiah Bruce. Went on to play football in Iowa, and now he's at Utah State. He is the only kid in the history of the IHSA to medal in the shot, 4x1 and 4x2 all in the same year.
And he weighed quite a bit, didn't he?
265.
265, and he not only ran in both sprint relays, but he was all state in both sprint relays and the shot put.
He played running back for us. That
is a big cat.
Yeah. Yes, and we do refer to our big guys as big cat. Actually, we refer to them as big skill guys.
There you go. You go. Love it.
He went on. Yeah, he had a great career at Lena Winslow for us. Led us to 2 state championships his sophomore year, his senior year. Like I said, he's now at Utah State. I think because of our speed program, along with our combination of our strength program, we got a kid at Iowa right now. His name's Jennings Dunker. He was the number 1 ranked tackle in all of Big Ten last year. Coming back for a 5th year. If he stays healthy, he could be a top 3 rounder next year at offensive tackle, probably be a guard in the NFL. And Jennings is 6'6", about anywhere from 310 to 330. He ran 4.81 in high school. Henry Ingles, a D lineman at Illinois. He was a walk-on. He ran 4.80. That Isaiah Bruce that I was talking about that went to Iowa and then Utah State, his best time at Lee Win was 4.60.
Absolutely fantastic, Coach. You are pretty high up on my list of people I love to talk to, and we need to talk again, even if we don't record it.
For sure.
And I'll call up Carl Lewis and see if he'll meet us for beers, maybe next winter or something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to actually listen to this a second time. I think I've heard it all, but
yeah,
I always love to listen to the podcasts that I've done. So thank you so much, and have a great night.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Tony. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to the Sprint-based football series on the Coach and Coordinator podcast. Be sure to check out our presenting sponsor, Titan GPS. It's used by sprint-based football coaches to get better data and understand the player load and how they can adjust that over the course of the season. It'll help you find out a lot about your team. It's used by Garrett Muller, who's a 2-time state champion at Stewartville High School in Minnesota. He uses it for all kinds of things, like seeing how his team's speed is progressing over the course of the season. I could say that in 2024, they actually got faster over the course of the season following their sprint-based football recipe. Titan Sensors also has the popular truck stick metric designed specifically for football and inspired by sprint-based football. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com. You can get our show notes there. We have articles on these episodes as well. And follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.